Is 7:02 by my clock. We will call to order the Tuesday, June 21st, 2022 City Council meeting. We will start with roll call.
Councilman Johnson.
Here.
Councilman Schultz.
Here.
President Scheer.
Here.
I will mention that Councilman Becker is excused and Councilman Hartwick is excused.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, public hearings. This evening we have none. Agenda item 4 is public comment. For everybody's reference, the city council will receive comments from city residents. So you must live within the city of Fort Atkinson or own property within the city of Fort Atkinson. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. I will have a timer going. Anyone wishing to speak is required to either sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon. That would be your full name, address, the subject matter, and your contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless also listed elsewhere on the agenda. We have quite the list, so I will start with our in-person comments. Carrie from 12 Krause Avenue. If you'll approach the podium, and then if you can let us know if there's a green light on there.
There is.
There is, perfect. Will you state your full name for us?
Carrie Kendrick, 12 Krause Avenue here in Fort. Should I start?
Yep, go right
Okay.
ahead.
My comment is about the farmer's market with the entertainment that was presented. I just want to say, we don't have a strip club in Fort, and it has purposely been voted down in the past. Yet what we witnessed at the farmer's market, the laying on the stage with the person's legs wide open and suggested movement, and giving children dollar bills to stuff in the costume of the transvestite mimics what a person would see in those establishments. The only difference is that if that person took their clothes off, it would be quite evident that they were not a female. But the farmer's market also has always been a family-friendly venue. Again, this show went against moral code of what is appropriate for children who were all around the stage. And I saw some still shots, not only of the kids, and their faces showed distress, shock, disgust. I say, how dare you people do something like this? This is a venue for adults, possibly.
Sorry, I have to hear the comments. Thank you.
We
Okay.
ask that the audience does not acknowledge during public comment.
Well, a venue like this, I have nothing against what these people are doing. That is their private life, which should be kept private. They could have rented the Fort Atkinson Club or some other private hall, and also, made known what the content of that was, so that people with children wouldn't attend, or people who didn't want to see something like that would be aware. It's adult entertainment at its worst. But while the council did not book the event, you give them open rein for the funds for the entertainment. Going forward, I'm demanding that you put parameters, moral parameters, not woke. We are not woke. We are decent, moral humans. You can take your woke and you can bring it back over to Madison or wherever. These are our taxpayers. These are decent church-going people. Whatever you say, God calls things sin. However, he calls that an abomination, because that's exactly what it was. And again, I say shame on all of you for condoning this. That's something to be done in private. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you.
I just will note for those present and anybody on the Zoom that the city council did issue a special event permit for the farmers market, but the city does not review the vendors nor the entertainment for the farmers market events. So, okay, who's next on the list? President Scheer.
Ineligible. So David, I'm sorry, I cannot read your last name, from 204 Spry Avenue. When you approach the podium, if you could please state your full name for the record.
Sorry about the handwriting. My name is David Radke, 204 Spry Avenue. And I would just like to back up what she just said. And I would also like to question, that's a public parking lot, correct?
We can't answer questions. Yes.
Well, it is yeah, there you go. It's a funded market, correct? How, public speaking was not my best thing, but I think the moral of this story is this whole woke crap. I've been more than willing to accept people for who they are. I believe, love the person, hate the sin. When push comes to shove, I believe you all are about to get punched right back. I believe what happened in this city was morally unacceptable. It needs to change. I moved out here to Fort Atkinson from Milwaukee, what I believe is a moral cesspool. And honestly, I have thoughts about leaving this city. Now, I can't put any more into words, so I'm just here to show support. So somebody else can speak.
Noted.
Just know that you pissed off a lot of people by granting that. You guys need to speak up and do something about it.
Next will be Terry Nelson, 213 Sherman Avenue. Go ahead, state your name.
I'm Terry Nelson. Excuse me. I live at 213 Sherman Avenue West here in Fort Atkinson. I'm both a owner and a landlord. My children went to school here. I now have a 4-year-old granddaughter who I have taken to the farmer's market. And I have brought in a wagon proudly, and I will not proudly do that again. I will not even do it again until I know that I don't have to question what type of entertainment is going to be there. This is talking about protecting children's innocence. We have a serious responsibility. Each and every one of us have an inherent responsibility to protect the dignity and the innocence of our children at whatever level we feel for that child is appropriate. It is not for anyone else to decide this. If you are going to have such a venue, it needs to be like the First Lady mentioned, well ahead of time, planned out. People know what's going on, not just that we would show up and be like, oh, what's all these people? Because I did read the articles. There was a large crowd. Well, I'd been very curious to see, wow, what do we have going here? Well, I would have been appalled to have my 4-year-old daughter, 4-year-old granddaughter, be exposed to something that I'm not in agreement with. It's not the way that I raised my children. It is not the way that I'm going to be raising my granddaughter. I just think, in general, I looked up, because yes, it is true, I've never been to a drag queen event. So I looked up, well, what exactly is it anyway, other than I knew it wasn't something I would be attending. And what I learned is in the clubs, ignorant as I may sound and be in this regard, is it's very sexual. It's very much about exploiting sexuality. It also is about what I would call exploiting being a female. That's what I would call it. This person who has these large breasts and, whatever, exploiting being who I am. That's what I would call it. So I have the right to see it and call it as I do. And I'm not putting down these people's choices. It is their choice to make. It is what they have the right to do, but not in what I thought would be family friendly. And I appreciate if none of you had anything to do with this decision, but yes, I agree that it needs to be something that you're a part of for the future, since this is apparently where the community has gone. Would I consider not being in a community like this? Absolutely. It really is disheartening. It's upsetting.
Thank you for your
All
comment.
right, thank you.
Next will be David Emmerich. Again, if you can state your full name and address.
Yes. My full name is David Emmerich, and my address is 1661 Janesville Avenue here in Fort. And I'm here to talk about why having a drag queen perform at our farmers market in Fort is really a bad idea. Because first of all, this is an event that doesn't unite our community. Instead, it divides us by asking us to publicly validate an issue on which we have no agreement. And it promotes the myth that a drag queen isn't a sexual issue. And as a psychotherapist, I have helped individuals who are sexually addicted to cross-dressing and who have asked for my help in overcoming that kind of an addiction. And it adds to the hypersexualizing of our culture in which we live, because when everything and everywhere we look has to do with sex and sexual expression, sex becomes devalued and meaningless instead of a cherished human expression. And I think it also promotes the myth that if I'm a young person who's questioning my sexual identity, that, oh, well, it's likely to be found in the opposite of the gender of which I was born. And I also want to add that it offends large numbers of Christian residents here who wish to raise their families by biblical values. My suggestion is that we go back to having our farmers market be a place to get fresh fruits and vegetables. And if we don't, next month, we're going to have to give the stage over to, who knows, people who identify as furries. And the months after that, any one of the so-called 72 other genders that exist. And let's do what's good for our community and especially for our kids, rather than trying to affirm every new identity that comes along. And as for the drag queens and as for anybody who questions their sexual identity, I wish them no ill at all, but rather God's richest blessings to them. Thanks.
Next will be Ron Martin. Name and address, please.
Ron Martin, 409 Natick Drive, where I've lived for 30 years. In case you missed it, I wanted to share some of the Facebook comments about the drag show at the farmers market on June 11th. Totally inappropriate and disgusting for a farmers market and around kids. These events are for 18 or 21 plus for a reason. Disappointing for this town, disturbing on so many levels. Child abuse. For such a small farmers market, this seems ridiculous. Their effort is inclusion, but as someone considering being a vendor, I will never affiliate my farm with this. Do these people performing really think this is normal behavior? It is gross and offensive. Poor choice of entertainment. I believe stuff like this should not be promoted in publicly funded places. Save it for private businesses. I'm curious whether the vendors have weighed in on this or if they were even asked their opinions. It's not about being against it. It's about being appropriate. If you're a member of this council or the Fort Atkinson Chamber of Commerce, I'd like you to ask yourself, is this more or less likely to entice a person to visit Fort and spend money here, or move here and raise a family, or locate a business here? Those are the things the Chamber of Commerce and the City Council should be most concerned with. It's also important to listen to your constituents. We are always accused of being closed-minded and bigoted, but the fact is that you are just as bigoted against anyone who disagrees with whatever is being celebrated this month in the name of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Your holy trinity, as it were. Is it right to force this on people who don't want this sort of exhibition in the public square, who don't believe it's appropriate for children to be exposed to this? We say no.
Next will be William Shipley. And state your name and address when you approach the podium.
William Shipley, 101 Sherman Avenue East, Fort Atkinson. I have attended just about every farmer's market for the last several years. I won't attend them anymore until the people that put this on are no longer in charge of the market. That this is despicable. I can't believe that the people that are in charge of this community and in charge of the market and in charge of the Chamber of Commerce would allow something like this. It's deplorable. It's grooming for sexual aberration. And it's not about homosexuality. It's not about heterosexuality. Stop sexualizing everything for children. Let them be kids.
Next, we will have Rebecca Van S.
I'm Rebecca Van Ness. I live at 1320 Riverside Drive. I'm really concerned about our children. And I'm concerned about anyone and everyone involved in that lifestyle. And here's why. I was sexually abused for the first 12 years of my life, and I absolutely hated being a female. If I had been raised today, I would probably be trans. I begged my parents to get me a sex change because I hated being a girl, because I thought, well, if I wasn't a girl, this wouldn't be happening to me. And I've heard multiple testimonies about this from people who have transitioned and they now regret it. Thankfully, I accepted who I was. I forgave the abuser. I got healthy. I was able to get married and have children. We don't need to accept perversion. We need to help these people love who they are, who they were created to be by God. If you care about our community and you care about our children, let's not encourage people to hate who they were created to be. Let's encourage them to love and embrace who they were created to be. Because I've heard multiple testimonies of people getting transitioned and regretting it later on and wishing they had never done it.
We have 3 that were struck from open comment. I'm going to inquire about if you own property within the city. That would be William Bartz, Jim and Karen Larson. And I believe that's Russ and Cheryl Hine. Do you own property within it? Okay.
We've got a facility for Atkinson, post church on the north.
Understood. I will open this up at this time for Zoom. If there is comment via Zoom, you will adhere to the same policies as any person here. So
I'm not invited to speak.
We want our pastor to speak.
you must,
This community
you must,
located within the city.
He's right across from the Kmart building. We're there many hours.
I understand that. Our policy is that you must live or own property within the city. It is a city ordinance. I am not making the rules at large. I am attempting to follow them.
I respect that, but we do, we contribute to the community financially and ethically.
I appreciated, noted. Again, I'm going to follow ordinance on this, so.
Are we allowed to speak
If you did not sign up, but I'm going to transfer to the Zoom and then we will go every other unless there's nobody on Zoom who will be speaking. So at this time, if somebody would like to make public comment on Zoom, they should unmute themselves, state their full name and their address. Again, you must be a city resident of Fort Atkinson. You will be limited to 3 minutes. Hearing none, seeing none, we will move back to in-person. If somebody would like to approach the podium, again, you must be a city resident, limited to 3 minutes. Please state your full name and your service address.
My name is Deborah Friedel. I'm at 430 North High Street, Fort Atkinson. I wanted to address this from a different perspective. So I'm not going to assume anything about you folks, but I do know you allowed this. You found reason to see that it was okay. You said you didn't vet it. You didn't look it over. Now, I don't know how you can vote on something if you don't know anything about it, for one. That is very, very concerning. I mean, you guys are put in here to do things for our city, and we're trusting you, okay? I want to take this from a new perspective. I'm going to take this from the perspective of people that are relatives of mine and friends of mine who are drag queens. I showed them pictures of this, and they said it was absolutely inappropriate to show that in the place that they showed it. There are places for what they call family-friendly drag shows, okay? There are different things that they do, but they said that was absolutely inappropriate. These are young children. These are gay people. Some are not. Some are straight people who just like to do drag. Every one of them, every single one of them stood by the fact that this was something that should never, ever have been exposing children. Are you guys going to next time kind of get pressured into having a pole dancer out there? I mean, what's the difference? Honestly, there is no difference. And so, some of it, I hear the buzz talk, and I'm sorry, I'm from Milwaukee, so I'm just going to be blunt. Some of you might go, oh, there are a bunch of homophobes sitting here, a bunch of church-going homophobes. No, we're not church-going homophobes. We are people that care about our children who do not need to be exposed to any kind of sexuality, no sexuality. At 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old and on. I mean, when you hit puberty, you start wondering about that stuff. Before that, let kids be kids. I mean, how you guys could have even considered something like this is beyond me. And it isn't just these group of wonderful people here that are expressing that. There are people from Milwaukee who are showing outrage. Now, I know there was some really nifty comments about it and so on and so forth, but if you really looked at them, a lot of them were from Whitewater. Well, we know what Whitewater is pretty much, they're, it's students and this and that and the other. A lot of them were from Milwaukee, okay? So that's Milwaukee. You guys don't represent Whitewater or Milwaukee. And if you want to, then please feel free to go there and we'll fit you, in something here that is more in line with what we do here. And there's a reason we do it here. There's a lot of people leaving Whitewater because it's just not family friendly. So a lot of families are leaving. Milwaukee people are fleeing out here because they've about had it up to their neck with all the insanity going down there. We're trying to keep Fort Atkinson a place where everybody can live, no matter what their lifestyle is, their thoughts, their beliefs, this, that, and the other. We believe in freedom, but we do not believe in the things that happened at that market. That was totally unacceptable. Thank you.
I will return to Zoom. Is there anybody on Zoom that would care to comment? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll go back to in-person.
Christy Took, 412 East Sherman Avenue, Fort. I was sent these messages and these pictures, and I guess I was quite disappointed in our community. I don't, like everyone's saying, I don't know if it's to blame you guys or not blame you guys. I'm not here to throw stones. I live in a glass house. So, but I just want to know, I have 5 kids. They've been raised in Fort Atkinson. When is the world, but especially Fort Atkinson, okay with sexualizing our children? And there's no way you can look. I know some of the posts that were up on the Unity website and all were like just innocent ones, but there were some extremely vulgar poses that this gentleman did. And you can call it grooming. That's what I would call it. There was just tons of stuff for little kids, little rainbow flags. Nothing against homosexuals, nothing against drag queens, but there's a place and a time for that. Just if we had had a woman dressed seductively doing a burlesque performance and she had laid on her back, spread her legs wide open with little kids watching that. I mean, And I hope you guys did not realize the type of performance he was going to put on. I pray that this was completely unknown. But there's a place for it. There's clubs and everything and whatnot for all kinds of stuff. There's the sex toy store for people like that. There's just places for these things. And it was done purposely at a farmer's market. It was done purposely to start numbing and getting our children just completely used to sexualizing everything, like they were saying. I spoke with someone that's part of the Unity group, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But it's a play on words, because I would love for the Unity group to maybe organize a prayer group, a prayer rally on the bridge, or let's come together. To me, the Unity group is just, once again, has a project play on words, and they're pushing an agenda. Once again, I don't know if anybody here had anything to do with that. And I say all this with love and mercy, because that's what God calls us to do. But I would hope and pray that we never bring anything like that to the streets of Fort Atkinson during the daytime where our children are. Thank you.
We're going to need you to come back and restate your name for the record.
Can you spell your last name, please? Okay, and you said 412? E. Sherman.
Not seeing anybody new on Zoom, so we will stick with in person.
I'm Betty Clout. I live at 1005 Madison Avenue. And I'm just going to take the angle of the business people here. My husband has had a business here for over 50 years and know a lot of different businesses here. And because of this, my husband and son have been getting emails from all other businesses, many businesses that are asking us all to quit the chamber. And some of them have, but what I see happening, I think you guys are all saying this was a mistake. And we're loving people. And I think we all forgive. I think what would be in everybody's interest here is that there would be an apology and something happened that, be transparent and just say, this wasn't the right thing that we did. And there is forgiveness. God's tell us to forgive, and we love everybody. And I'm just telling you, there's just a lot of businesses that are just, some of them are just deciding to leave. Or Bob, my husband's got a big list of people that it says, we're encouraging you all to quit the chamber because we can't we can't go along with this. So that's happening in Fort Atkinson. So, and I truly believe you guys know that this was a mistake. I do. And we all make mistakes, So that's all I wanted to say.
Any other public comment?
Just a question, if any of you have children?
We can't answer questions.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Lehman. I live at 727 Mesmer Street here in town. I understand you can't answer questions, but I do see a lot of blank stares from quite a few of you, and it's discerning to me. All I want to see is an acknowledgement from all of you that you understand what the town is asking for. That's all we want. Acknowledgement. This was a mistake. Things can be changed. Things will go on. We can't affect who people are or change how people are, but we can definitely affect what our children see. And that's concerning to me as a father of 4, ranging from 13 to 4. It's concerning. So what I would ask of you is to listen and consider a change in your policies, to consider not just acknowledging and accepting a performance, but to request a preview of that performance from the group or individual that will be performing to you for the community, because you are vouching for what the people are going to see. And if the people don't like it, that's on you guys because you approved it. Is there an acknowledgement from you guys on that? That's what we're asking for. Not a question, not an answer, an acknowledgement. Thank you.
We have three properties that we pay personal property taxes on. We do not live within the city. We are just outside the city limits. We have, Joe, give the addresses. I'm getting nervous. This is my husband, Joe.
11214 Park Street, 811, 813 Gold Street, 815, 817 Gold Street.
And we pay property taxes in the township of Koshkonong. And I would ask that my pastor, Pastor Bartz, William Bartz, would be in proxy for me.
No,
That is not right and it's not fair. I
I'm,
don't care what the city says. It is time for people to start listening. Oh,
we
we voted you
we
in.
follow
We pay your
ordinances.
wages. It's time
You're
that
not
you
paying us
listen to the
nearly
people.
enough then.
And we will.
All right, everyone. Deep breath. Again, understand that we are here to follow ordinances and therefore we will follow ordinances through our public comment session. This will be a first call for any remaining public comment. This will be a second call for any remaining public comment.
I'd like to make a comment, please.
Please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Ann Engelman. I live at 428 East Sherman Avenue in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. I would like to applaud the civility to which everyone made their comments this evening. They are heartfelt. I do feel that accountability is important. The city council can't speak to accountability in this particular meeting, but the Chamber of Commerce is the supervising entity for the farmers market. I believe sincerely that on the heels of this gathering by people who care as much as all of you, that the accountability of the entertainment at the farmers market will indeed be reviewed and that there will indeed be an explanation. We are people who love where we live. And we all are people who care about our city, no matter what you believe about the issue, this particular issue. We have that in common. So my request is also the same as yours, is accountability for the farmers market choices, not just for entertainment, but also for policies, for process, and to continue putting on an event that our city can be proud of and our city can trust. It has currently lost the trust of many of you, and I just hope that the public comments, which I am sure will come, will provide some comfort for you. And I, again, wanted to thank you all for taking time out of your day to speak from the heart. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
This is Shirley Brown, 625 East Street.
Can you repeat that, please?
Shirley Brown, 625 East Street. And I just wanted to share what it says the purpose of the farmers market is, and it's to focus on the vendors of the Fort Farmers Market, to promote businesses or individuals that provide fresh and healthy food for the community. It seems that the agenda now is being changed to the focus on the vendors to focus from the focus on the vendors to the focus on alternate lifestyles of certain individuals. And the purpose of the chamber is to promote and maintain strong business community in the Fort Atkinson. And I think we need to go back to that and to promote getting back to what the focus is and not for division, and to cancel this type of entertainment and And I think there needs to be a written apology or a public apology from the chamber and whoever's involved, because I think this was not good for the children that saw this. Thank you.
This will be a third and final call for public comment.
I'll make it short and sweet, I promise. My name is Robin Lehman. I live at 727 Westmere Street. I have 4 kids in the public school system. I had seriously considered taking them out and putting them into a private school until another church member of mine mentioned to me that there's no safe place on the planet to hide my kids and shelter them from society and what's going on. My 9-year-old came home a few months ago when school was still in session and said, "Mom, one of my good friends is hugging me and kissing me and says she's bisexual. What do I do?" And at first I'm like, she doesn't even know what the meaning of that is. She's 9, but they do. And they're starting to get that. And it scares me. My daughter was born a girl. She's going to stay a girl. That's the way it's going to be. I've lived in Fort Atkinson my whole life, and I really don't visit the farmer's market and support it like I should. But in any case, whether it's the farmer's market or a concert in the park or any of the other things that Fort Atkinson has to offer, that's the last thing I want my kids to see is something else, one more thing pushing them to ask questions about their sexuality and who they are. And is this a boy? Is this a girl? What is this? How do you identify it? It should be simple: man, woman, boy, girl. But it's not that simple anymore. I don't know how many of you have kids or grandkids. I don't know how old they are. But I just ask that as council people and mothers and fathers and grandparents to just help us keep our kids safe and not have things such as what happened today try to prevent them in the future. You can't control what other people do, but you might be able to set more guidelines that are stricter to help stop some of that stuff from happening. Thank you.
This is a final call for public comment. Hearing none, seeing none. Public comment is closed. We will move on with the agenda. Thank you to everyone who took the time to come this evening. We have these on the 1st and 3rd of every month. Feel free to come more frequently. Agenda item number 5 is the consent agenda. Just for reference, the consent agenda outlined below is hereby presented for action by the City Council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president.
I move to approve the consent agenda as listed, items 5A through 5G.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. If you could exit quietly, we are still conducting business this evening. Thank you. Agenda item 6, petitions, requests, and communications. 6A would be the recognition of the retirement of Douglas Yandry after 25 years of service to Fort Atkinson Public Works.
So I'm just going to say a few words about Mr. Yandry, and then we have a plaque for him. Well, I'll say a few words, and then Doug, you're welcome to say a few words too. And then we have a plaque for Mr. Yandry that will be presented by our city council president, and we will take a couple photos then too. So I want to thank Doug for his more than 25 years of service to the Fort Atkinson Public Works Department. Doug has stepped up several times to be the interim public works superintendent during transition periods where that position wasn't full, and we appreciate that very much. In the Public Works Department and in the city, we could always count on Doug to come into work whenever and for whatever was needed of him. A true utility player. He also stepped up to serve the water department when they needed an additional person on call. And of course, Doug is still a very active member of our community, volunteering and umpire. Are you umpire as well? And yes, at WRS, right. Yes, so, and he will continue, I'm sure, to be an active and engaged member of our community and in our Parks and Rec department. So Doug, you can, if you would like to, feel free to say a few words and then we'll get you your plaque.
No, you do not have to say your address.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's on the board here and to all the department heads and the whole community. I've enjoyed the 25 years in that and moving on to the next adventure.
Congratulations. Well,
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Smile for.
Thank you.
And also Doug is a fixture at the Generals Baseball Fest. So I'm sure he put in many, many hours serving the community this weekend.
Agenda item 6B will be moved to another date. Amy could not be with us this evening. Agenda item 7, resolutions and ordinances. 7A is the review and possible action relating to the resolution approving the wastewater utility 2021 compliance maintenance annual report.
Good evening, everybody. Our our annual report, CMAR, is our compliance maintenance annual report, our annual report that we have to give to Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and giving them just an idea and snapshot what our previous year was like, mainly to do with the performance and condition of the wastewater utility plant. It's as usual. We can be graded on an A, B, C, D, and F for each section in the CMAR. You can see the grades down below. Each one of those sections is graded individually, but if we were to fail one, even though we would have an overall passing grade, we still would need to have a response to that. Anything C or below requires a response from us explaining what happened or what conditions existed that maybe caused an issue. This year, we did not have anything less than an A. In the past years, we've gotten point deductions. I believe last year we had a C for mainly inflow. So because of rainy years, we've had that for several years, rainy years where the river level's high and our flows are above 90% of design or above the 100% of design. Each one of those gets points off for that. With the dry year we had last year, we had about 8 inches below normal for rainfall last year. We typically have about 34 plus here in Fort Atkinson. And I think we had about 26 last year. So this year is maybe heading similarly. So we'll see. During construction, we don't mind. We don't need to be too dry, but a drier year wouldn't be bad this year for us. We didn't have any other, anything even close to any other points in any other section. So the performance of the plant was very good last year. Even though we're under construction right now, we're condition wise in pretty good shape considering where we've been in the last time around when we got to a big construction project. We were barely 20 years out from the construction of the plant, and we were in very poor shape. So we have things that are doing okay right now. Overall, the plant's doing fine. It's good timing for this project that we're in right now to replace our aging equipment. So other than that, and we had a 4.0 average this year. Last year we had a 3.84. Again, it was just points off for high flows last year. Any other questions on anything else that was in here?
Thank you for a fine job you do for our city.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think you mentioned that enough, that all of our scores were A's, Paul, and I want to congratulate you. And I know I know you can't control all of it.
No, right.
But that's a great score, all A's. And I just want to congratulate you and thank you and your team for keeping our wastewater where it should be and not where it shouldn't be.
Right. Yeah,
Super
I'll relay
important.
that message to them.
So, sorry.
All right. Yeah. Any other questions on anything?
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing staff to file the 2021 compliance maintenance annual report as required by CH.NR 208 Wisconsin Administrative Code.
Second. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to pile on the accolades. It is actually really interesting to read this report. I might be the only one that's saying that, but it is also nice to have on the first page all A's. So job well done. We do have a motion and a second. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
All right. Thank you.
Agenda item 7B is the first reading of an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of Fort Atkinson to change the zoning of 1205 Industrial Drive from, I believe that's HI Heavy Industrial to MI Medium Industrial.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you. This is a request that was made by Joe Salamone. The reason for the zoning change is because he wishes to develop some personal storage facilities on the property. Personal storage is allowed in the medium industrial zoning as a conditional use. The staff reviewed the request. It will go before it's gone before the Planning Commission at their meeting last week, and so far have had no public comments regarding the request. Staff does, of course, support this request as well. The changes to the zoning map obviously require 3 readings of the ordinance. So this will be the first reading this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and we'll note that Joe Salamone is here in the audience as well.
I will just note, Andy, for the reference of the council, this use in the MI district does require a conditional use permit, and Mr. Salamone is currently in process. There was a public hearing at the Plan Commission meeting for the conditional use permit as well as the zoning map amendment, and there was no public participation in either public hearing.
This, seeing that there were original construction prints going back to 1999 that show this, it seems that it would make sense to permit something like this.
All right, I move to direct the city manager to prepare this ordinance for a second reading at the city council meeting on July 5th, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7C is the first reading of an ordinance annexing the territory along the southwest corner of US Highways 12 and 26 to the city of Fort Atkinson.
Yeah, thank you. This is a request by Fort Healthcare. They have a parcel that they own at that southwest corner of Highway 12 and 26. That parcel was originally purchased, I think, to kind of hold the place for some future expansion plans. Those plans have now located more centrally at their current campus, and the need for that parcel is changing. City had spoken with Ford Healthcare about this and had offered this annexation as a good opportunity to bring this into the city so that it falls under our zoning and things of that nature, which is certainly good for us to aid in planning for kind of pre-planned development out in that direction. The Planning Commission will consider this at their meeting next Tuesday for the first time. And as this is requiring an ordinance, this is the first reading, so we'll be coming back for the second reading here to council, at which point we'll have the input of the Planning Commission available for you at that time. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I'll note that Jim Nelson with Fort Healthcare is in the audience as well.
At this time, that doesn't include any improvements via the city. It's just we're going to annex it and take it in.
Correct. We have utilities stubbed to about the overpass of the bypass, but nothing that would reach out to this particular parcel at this time.
And that probably would wait until we have somebody interested out there that would give us a reason.
That'd be my expectation. We are looking at developing a TID district out in that area that would probably help facilitate that. That'll come before Planning Commission and Council at a meeting later on this year.
Thank you.
And either way, we would not run utilities there before it was ready to be developed.
I do know that parcel falls within our official map, so it's nice to know
does.
that that is moving into the city and gives us a little bit more smart managed growth in that area. So
I move to direct the city manager to prepare this ordinance for a second reading at city council meeting on July 5th, 2022.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8, reports of officers, boards, and committees. 8A is the city manager's report.
Thank you. Fire Chief Roush and I are working on submitting an application to the Wisconsin Department of Health Services for an EMS Flex Grant. The application is due in early July, and we will apply for the maximum funding level in all categories, which equates to about $310,000 to supplement the EMS startup and staffing budgets. So that will come before the council if we are successful in receiving any funds. The Parks and Recreation Department has released their survey to get community input relating to the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. I would encourage everybody to visit the city's website under city projects to take the electronic survey between now and July 15th. Hard copies are available at the Parks and Recreation office and the senior center. We really look forward to getting community feedback and getting the community engaged in the comprehensive outdoor recreation planning process. It will plan for the future of our parks and trails and recreation programming. So it is very important to get input from everybody. Engineer Selly, Public Works Superintendent Williamson and I had the pleasure to meet with planners and administrators from the Department of Transportation on June 15th to walk along Riverside Drive. We call it playing in traffic. So we wore our yellow ANSI gear and we played in traffic a little bit. But we spoke with the folks from DOT about Riverside Drive Highway 106 reconstruction, which is scheduled in 2026. And talked about the project and the challenges, they are very open to working with us on our long-term goal, which is to have a better roadway there first and foremost, but then also connecting some of our pedestrian and bicycle trails from the downtown city center and Riverwalk to our beautiful Rock River Park and aquatic center. So it was a very hot day, but it was a fun excuse to get out of the office a little bit. I also want to remind everybody that on July 1st, the city is switching over to our new .gov domain name and our new VoIP phone system. The change in emails and the website will be seamless, but we will have new phone numbers. We have publicized that quite a few times over the last month, and we will continue to do so with the hopes that everybody understands the new numbers and calls those numbers after July 1st. We will keep all numbers available for at least a month to hopefully get as many people as we can. We also looking at information on the city's website, social media, and our water utility bills as well. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 9 is unfinished business. 9A is the review and possible action relating to alcohol beverage license applications for the licensing period of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023 for IYS Ventures, thank you, LLC.
Thank you. If you're familiar with this location, it is at 303 South Main Street, which is currently the Loader BP location. Loader BP has owned several properties within this part of the state between Madison, McFarland, Deerfield, Fort Lake Mills, Waterloo, and Johnson Creek. They are selling all their locations. So the purchaser that is looking to purchase this location, IYS Ventures LLC, they are out of Illinois, which is appropriate. They have an LLC. The only requirement with an out-of-state LLC is that the agent or the manager would be a Wisconsin resident, which in this case it is. I believe the existing manager has been the manager of the location. So this is a single-story retail convenience store. They have no plans to change anything. The license would be a Class A beer and a Class A liquor cider only. So that would allow them to sell beer and cider products for consumption away from the premise. A background check was done, which was successful. The license committee reviewed and recommend council approval. This would be take effect upon approval with issuance date of July 1st, 2022. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I move to approve the alcohol beverage license for the application of IYS Ventures LLC for the licensing period of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023, subject to a payment of any outstanding fees and monies owed the city.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9B is the review and possible action relating to the cigarette and tobacco products retail license application for the licensing period of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023 for IYS Ventures LLC.
Thank you. Same location, 303 South Main Street. I failed to mention that it'll be operated as iMart stores, so that will become the name of the locations. There's minimal restrictions on applying for a cigarette and tobacco license. They must fill out the state provided form, answer the questions appropriately. Sales of cigarette tobacco products is only allowed over the counter. They can no longer use vending machines. No background check is required. However, this being a license issued that requires those purchasing to be of age, I feel it's appropriate that it does go to council. So council is aware of licenses that are issued from our office and that it does have restrictions on purchases. This again would be effective for July 1st through June 30th. Just mention one thing kind of related to this in general is sometimes when we have change in ownership in businesses that deal with alcohol license, sometimes the seller of the business has to relinquish their license contingent on the applicant being approved for it. As we are not at our quota for this license and there's no quota for cigarette license, we're not at our quota for the alcohol beverage license. There's not that caveat stipulation on this. Sometimes we have that situation and this we didn't. And I failed to mention that in the previous topic. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about the cigarette and tobacco license.
Thank you for the clarification.
I move to approve the cigarette and tobacco products retail license application for IYS Ventures LLC for the licensing period of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023, subject to payment of any outstanding fees and monies owed to the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 10, new business. 10A is the review and possible action relating to an agreement with Key Benefits Concept for GASB 75 other post-employment benefits valuation services for 2021 through 2025 for $9,875.
Now, this may put you all to sleep, so bear with me for a second. Key Benefits Concept, KBC, they completed an actuarial liability study for us on December 18th pertaining to GASB 75. GASB 75 refers to year-end financial reporting on other post-employment benefits, also known as OPEB. So the reason we have to have that is that within our handbook, we have employees that were hired before January 1st, 2013, that upon retirement, they're able to roll over any sick and vacation time to cover their health insurance benefit. So again, that's called other post-employment benefits. So as we allow that to happen, that's considered a liability on our books, which has a cash value. So therefore, in response to GASB, we have to provide this actuarial study every year. So since 2018, this firm has been performing this service for us. And to date, we have spent $10,160. Every year there is evaluation done. And then in the interim, there's kind of just an update where I have to continually update them on our retirees, their balances, and then what is expected to be spent from their balance for the future year, as that is something we have to record on our books. KBC has offered a multi-year agreement for us for the next 2 reporting cycles. So as you can see, that total is $9,875. So it would be a discounted rate to lock in for the few years. It's been great working with KBC. It's very simple, the information that we provide. They provide me the tables that I need to fill out, and most likely I open the prior year and just kind of update them. This OPEB liability will exist for at least 25 additional years because we have that many employees that are eligible for this benefit upon retirement. The cost of the valuation is split between the general fund, the water fund, and the wastewater funds. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I move to approve the agreement with Key Benefits Concept for GASV, 75 other post-employment benefit valuations services for 2021 through 2025 for $9,875.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 10B is the review and possible action relating to a master services agreement with Rupert and Milky for engineering services.
Yeah, thank you. This is as the memo states, just simply an agreement, kind of a framework, if you will, that will allow us then to receive task orders under this agreement. The reason that I'm bringing this before you is we've been a bit understaffed in the engineering department and have been looking for ways to try to get a few things done that need to be done, namely some annual type planning and design for construction projects that we're falling behind on a bit. I did reach out to Rupert and Milky and ask them to provide, ask them for a meeting actually to discuss this. They provide these types of services for a number of other communities in our region that don't have a city engineer. The way that they've structured these is, again, under this master services agreement, and then they develop task orders upon the request of staff for various projects. I provided an example of 3 of those projects within the memo that I would move forward on, and I'm requesting council to allow us the latitude to approve those task orders that are $10,000 or less, with the signature of myself and city manager Lemire, and that task orders that are more than $10,000 would come before council for their approval. There is nothing binding about this agreement. We are free to do whatever we would like with respect to these projects, so we can put them out to bid and receive competitive bids for them. We don't have to provide any project work to Rupert Milky under this agreement. It just simply acts as a framework for us to access them. I did mention in the memo that I have worked here with a number of different firms over my tenure here. And I've been very impressed with Rupert and Milky, particularly with the water main design project that we're now, as of today, actually started construction on. And felt very comfortable with the project manager that has been assigned to us, that we would be able to get a good value and a good product out of this firm. So was happy to be able to, or I'm hopeful, I guess, to be able to access them for some of these other projects that we're just simply not getting to. This is the first time that something like this has come before council. Even prior to your various tenures here. And I just wanted to make sure that council was comfortable with the way that this contract would be set up, and also the way that the task orders would be approved through that contract. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have related to this. The one thing I did that I do want to mention that'll become more clear, I think, is the way that this is financed. So if you recall, when we talked about the construction project and the sidewalks a few meetings ago, that was broken up among various pots of money. Sidewalk was charged to the road program, water main was charged to the water utility. This would be set up in exactly the same way. So the costs associated with one of the tasks is the water main design for 2023 would also be allocated to the water utility for that design cost, whereas the GIS map updates that I mentioned in the memo, those would be charged to probably split among the utilities, since we're mainly mapping utility assets, but some road assets too. So that would be charged to that fourth account. So very similar, I guess, arrangement to what we've shown in the past. Does council have any questions about this?
This would probably point itself on, would assume, at a small number of projects that would require this feature. It's not like an unlimited number of $10,000 things that would be signed off.
That's a great question. We're bound by our budget. So the top three things that I mentioned there, I think would be a good start, but I think we will run out of money before we run out of projects. Grove Street is a project that is lacking some attention right now because of staffing. So that would come up at some point. Whether we have the ability to take that on financially, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at our numbers when it comes to that. That would be more than $10,000 project, but I think we're more limited by the dollars than we are the number of projects, if that helps answer that question.
On the positive side, I would assume this also makes things smoother and easier to be accomplished in what is already in motion.
Yes, yeah. So traditionally, the assistant city engineer would help with, for instance, the 2023 planning for the water work, the sewer work, the road work, and things of that nature. We don't have that position in place right now, so I think it would work very similar to what we're doing right now. With respect to that, we hired Rupert Milky to do the water main design, and they performed that, and now they're doing construction oversight. So I think that would remain consistent, I guess, with what we did this year. But there are other projects, and that, that TID project that I mentioned in there is another. It's kind of a one-off project, but it's something that's going to be very time critical to put together cost estimates for various public improvements that would go into that TID plan. So there are a bit of an unlimited number of projects out there, frankly, on my list. That's why I say I think we'd be more bound by the dollars that we have to spend on some of this stuff, in particular out of our general fund. Our utilities are fairly well set up, in particular the water utility with the expanded rates for main replacement, which includes design. That's all budgeted for, but some of these other things that we have, like the Grove Street lots, a portion of that comes out of our sanitary utility, and a portion that would come out from our road utility or our road funds. So we have to look at that very carefully to understand how that would be budgeted.
We'll just note a couple things. The recommendation in the memo includes for task orders associated with approved projects. So that is one thing. If it's something that's identified already in the budget or has been previously approved by the council, this would authorize us to have the task order with Rupert and Milky for up to $10,000. So there's not, it's not a case where we would just be coming up with projects and then getting task orders for those projects. They are already approved projects that we would be working with Rupert and Milky on for the management, planning, design, those types of engineering services. So they're professional services, not necessarily, I mean, it's not construction, it's not purchase of equipment, it's not some of those things that require certain bidding and whatnot. So I just wanted to make those items clear.
I move to authorize the city manager to execute the master services agreement with Rukirk and Melky Incorporated for a 2-year term with the authorize the city manager and director of public works to authorize task orders for approved projects up to $10,000.
Second.
I'm gonna pop in, we'll record that we have a motion and a second. I guess, is it possible to note in future projects if you plan to utilize Rupert and Milky, so that way we understand that there may be a project cost that goes above and beyond what is shown in the budget, or will you show that they are within the project cost?
I think, yeah, so when we come up to budgeting in the fall, to include in there sometimes we'll include the design cost. And we would just, we have an option in that design cost. So that would be something that Rupert Milky could do under this contract. And if we decided that perhaps we wanted to put that out to bid just to test the waters, we could do that. But that design component would be the budgeted amount for this firm that we could utilize under this contract.
That would be beneficial. And then I think, like the extraterritorial review, if perhaps every 6 months, a year, you can just say Rupert Milky executed these projects on our behalf. That would be really beneficial as well.
I'd be happy to do that. In
Would
fact,
make
I
us
would
feel a little more comfortable.
I would offer quarterly if that's okay with you. I think the frequency might be better.
Okay.
Than every 6 months like we do the extraterritorial.
Perfect. That would be a request. Don't know that it needs to be within the motion. So we do have a motion and a second. Any other questions, conversation?
I'm not an expert on, in this field. I guess my question is, are there other organizations that provide similar services as Rupert and Milky? I understand that, we worked with them in the past, so there's a familiarity and a trust level with them. Is it often that the city looks at, competitive bid for these types of services?
It is not. So the selection of Rupert Milky was based upon my experience with SEH, MSA. We worked with Baxter and Woodman, probably 4 to 6 firms over my tenure here, all of whom have done a reasonable job. I've been frankly very impressed with Rupert Milky, in particular the project manager Andy Burt. And so in putting something out as an RFP, what we're really doing is asking for a request for qualifications. All of those firms could do this work. It really comes down to, frankly, my confidence in their people, if that makes sense, that we've worked with. And I'm very confident in that with Rupert Milky. I do think that we've asked for their rates. Their rates are similar to those of the other firms. There aren't huge discrepancies there. I do think having a 2-year time limit on this will be important. And maybe after that 2 years, we put out that RFQ again to say, we're asking for engineering services for a 2-year period, and we can evaluate those firms at that point. But to be quite honest with you, if the decision were mine and we put the RFQ out today and Rupert Milky, responded, short of a significant change in the financial cost to do this, that another firm might bring to the table, they would still be my first choice.
Thank you.
I will just also note that the city has a similar agreement with Vanderwall and Associates for planning services. So that's the same type of situation where we have an agreement with them where they serve as the city planner, and we provide, we have task orders for certain projects such as the Banker Road Neighborhood Planning Project, but then we also have some minor day-to-day work like the review of some of our site plan review and some of our conditional use permit and land use applications that don't rise to the level of us requesting council approval for those funds. So we have them on retainer, so to speak, except there's no actual financial implication for this master services agreement.
Okay.
All right, we still have a motion and a second out there. Any further discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. 10C is the review and possible action relating to a proposal for a DPW facility study by Engberg Anderson in the amount not to exceed $9,000.
All right, thanks for having me. This is something that's come before the council several times. I think we've discussed many times the condition of the existing facility that is down on James Way, or James Place. And so this memo kind of summarizes the next logical step that we went through in the CIP process this last year for 2022. I produced a request for proposal and sent it out earlier this year to several firms. We did get 2 responses from highly qualified firms. And excuse me, this kind of breaks out the analysis that we went through to look for the most qualified individuals. And in the process, we did take a look at the existing information that we had from a study we did in 2017, I believe, which is, I think everyone is aware of, is lacking in some significant detail. So in this instance, I'm just requesting, and staff themselves are requesting, that the council choose the proposal from Ingberg Anderson in the amount not to exceed $9,000 as budgeted, and authorize the city manager to execute the contracts for services.
What would be like an expected output from this study?
So the intention of this whole process is to get 2 documents that show 2 individual detailed plans for a layout, for an actual facility layout that would account for the needs, the system and the area needs and space needs that we have for the city, and take a look at the long-term view for the next 20 to 30 years. So the document itself would actually be mapping.
The 2 documents, are they both designed for the same site or possible separate sites?
Correct. There'll be
So we could do a
the intention is
comparison.
to do, yep, the intention is to do 2 separate sites and offer you all the information you need to make the choices in the future as we move forward with this process.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So just from my understanding, it doesn't necessarily, it's not blueprints for buildings. It's more just,
No, it
this
will
is
be a
what are the requirements
correct. So
needed
what
now and for the future.
Yeah, what they'll do is they'll look at the space needs, the spatial needs, the facility needs, the really the entire layout to make it efficient, and then they'll place a placeholder. Let's as a better term for the building location. They'll put a placeholder, but it's detailed in that they understand the spatial needs for storage, dry storage, heated storage, and all this snow equipment storage and whatnot. And they take a look at the next 20 or 25 years and in terms of growth for where the city is headed. And they'll produce a document that we'll be able to look at, review with detailed information about requirements. And then they'll place that item on a mapping for 2 separate locations to give us a bird's eye view of what can be expected.
Okay. I appreciate the comparison table up front in the document. That really helped note the differences between the 2 companies that did return proposals. So
yeah, I think it paints a better picture, a broad picture for everyone that's involved in this. I am asking for the one firm that is slightly more higher in price, but I think if you look at the table, they certainly are coming to the table with a lot of information for us, and they were upfront right away with everything. So,
and happy to see this process get started.
Yes, I am.
For anybody who's walked through DPW, this is a little overdue. So.
Yeah, I will say the buildings on the front of the proposal for the concept plan are very nice looking.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And this is a very qualified firm. I have worked with them in the past, and they do they have done great work for the projects that I've worked on with. So,
Are these designed at the moment like one big building on either site? Is it going to have multiple buildings and multiple?
I think that is the intention, is to have one large facility. However, they will take a look at the spatial requirements that we have and the layouts of the lots that we would be looking at. And I think that they would optimize either situation for us.
I have to agree. What I saw in my packet were just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, they do nice work.
No, we would be.
I move to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Engberg Anderson Architects for a Department of Public Works facility study in the amount not to exceed 9,000 as budgeted in the 2022 CIP.
Second.
motion and a second. Any last discussion, conversation?
Yeah, I agree that the imagery presented in the packet, they are beautiful buildings. We're also all taxpayers here, so hopefully that can be, I understand the state of your facilities. And I understand what needs to be done. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I think this group will find that good happy medium that will allow us to focus on what is appropriate for the city, but then also looks aesthetically pleasing. So we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 11, miscellaneous. This evening we have none. Agenda item 12, claims appropriations and contract payments. 12A is the review and possible action relating to the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorization of payment.
I move to approve the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorized payment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All of those, nope, I lied. This is a roll call vote.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye. Threw me for a loop there. Agenda item 13, the city council may consider a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851G in order to confer with legal counsel who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategies to be adopted by the council with respect to current litigation. We will not be adjourning back into open session.
I move to adjourn into closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851G in order to confer with legal counsel with respect to litigation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz.
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye. We will now move into closed session.